We're going to solve absolute value inequalities now in this video. It says solve the absolute value inequality and graph the solution. So when we're solving absolute value, any kind of absolute value problem, whether it's an equation or an inequality, we're going to have two cases. All right, and the very first thing we need to do before we write the two cases is to isolate the absolute value. So we're going to isolate the absolute value first, then we're going to solve using two cases. Now this works, this is the same with equations, just like inequalities. We have two cases. I'll show you how we write the two cases. It's a little different with an inequality. So didn't need to isolate this first letter A example. So we're going to go ahead and start writing the two cases. The case 1, I'll go ahead and call this case 1. Case 1 is just to write the inequality just like I see it. There's case 1. Now case 2 is going to be to write the inequality. Of course, each time I'm not writing the absolute value marks, right? Those get left off. I'm going to write the absolute value inequality without the absolute value marks, but I'm going to flip the symbol, the inequality symbol, and I'm going to make the right side the opposite from what it was. Okay, opposite of what it was. So now we're going to take the two cases and solve them independently of each other. -4, -4. Here we go. We have 2x less than 3. Divide by 2, divide by 2. We have x is less than 3/2, and that's really just the same as 1.5. I'll probably use 1.5 when I'm on my number line because that's obviously an easy thing to picture in my mind when I'm trying to find the location for that. So if I have -11 on the right, I have 2x. I'm going to go divide by 2, divide by 2. Now notice I've not divided or multiplied by a negative, so I keep the symbols the same. That's going to give me a -5.5. Now what's very, very important, and I'm going to put this right here so you can put it on notes if you need to. Whenever I have my, I've isolated the absolute value marks, and I have an inequality with the small side toward the absolute value, in other words less than, that's going to be an and, that's going to be an and situation. It's going to be turned into a compound inequality with the word and between the two inequalities every time. So let's see what this looks like then with a graph. Okay, it didn't say to give the answer in interval notation, so I'll just graph the solution. This is a -5.5, and this is my 1.5. I have this one, anything less than 1.5. Anything less than 1.5 looks like this. I always do my prep work above it. If you haven't looked at the previous videos, you might try that. It might help you. And now I'm going to put this one, anything greater than -5.5. It goes like that. Now the word and means the overlap, only the overlap. So my answer is going to be, sorry, I just had to double check my work. My answer is actually going to be just this overlap part. Oh, pardon me. My answer is just going to be the overlap here. Having some palm reading issues. So there's the answer, from -5.5 to 1.5. Any value that you picked in that red zone there will actually cause that inequality to be true. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem here. We're going to solve this one now. Notice that the absolute value is not isolated. The very first thing I want to do is isolate it. If I have something going on outside it, I'm just going to use inverse operations and get rid of it. So here I go. Now notice I've divided by negative, which means that the symbol is going to switch directions. Okay, so that's going to be a 2 there, and I keep my absolute value intact until I've gotten it into one isolated absolute value. All right, so I have greater than or equal to 2. Now I'm going to write my two cases. Case 1 is going to look like this: 6 minus x greater than or equal to 2. Case 2 is going to look like this: 6 minus x less than or equal to the opposite, which is negative 2. Now we're going to solve them both independently of each other. I have negative x greater than or equal to negative 4. I have x, flip the symbol because I'm dividing by negative 1, x less than or equal to 4. I'm going to go minus 6, minus 6. Negative x is less than or equal to negative 8. I'm going to flip the symbol because I'm dividing by negative. I just didn't show that work. So I get x greater than or equal to 8. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my number line right over here. Anything less than or equal to 4, here's my 4, here's my 8. Anything less than or equal to, now that's going to be a bracket, and there's less than or equal to. Anything greater than or equal to 8, so it's going to go this way. Now, let's see what we have here. We have the absolute value isolated, but we now have a greater than. The greater than symbol toward the absolute value is going to create an or situation. Right, is an or situation always. Whenever we have the absolute value greater, the greater side toward the absolute value, once it's isolated, we're going to have an or situation. Now what does or mean? Or means slide the two answers straight down onto the number line, and that will be my answer. And so my answer, I'll put it in red, is this. So in this case we do have two sets going in opposite directions, anything less than or equal to 4, or anything greater than or equal to 8. Okay, let's take a look at the last one. This is also going to be an or situation because the absolute value is already isolated, and so our two cases will look like this. Or make the second one, the right side, the opposite. Here we go, solving for this. Let's take a look at the graph of this one and we'll be finished. Anything, and let's see, let me put my 2 points on here, 2, and then we have 3 1/3. So I have anything greater than or equal to 2. Miss Savelle, excuse me, boy howdy. I think I should put the 2 showing it smaller than the 3 1/3. Anything greater than, greater than or equal to 2 goes this way. Anything less than or equal to 3 1/3 goes this way. Now, remember, or means bring them both down onto the number line, right? Bring them both down. So without getting into the copying and sliding or cutting and sliding, there's my answer. Right? That red is the answer, because when I slide those both down, I have an answer. I have my whole number line colored in. So remember, or does not always mean that it's going to look like that. Does not mean that. Or means put them both on the graph. Okay? I hope this has been helpful. Thanks for watching.